welcome to Survivor Not by Chance podcast. I'm your host, Asia Carroll, and today I'm so excited. We have Kristen Joy here, and she's going to talk about her business, the Purple Project, and the amazing things that she's doing in the community. Today, the topic is domestic violence awareness, and I like to talk about domestic violence awareness because I've experienced a lot of domestic violence growing up as a young child and as an adult. And I also know so many people who have experienced domestic violence. So it's very important for us to bring awareness to this so that way people can learn what it is. Many times people don't know they're in domestic violence relationships. It can be a domestic violence relationship with a family member, not just romantic partners. So that's something we're going to talk about today to clear those things up. If you can, please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Survivor Not by Chance, where we talk about survivor stories and we talk about how people go from being a survivor to thriving. So let's just talk about Kristen. Kristen is a catalyst whose dreams defy societal norms and encourage others to follow their own. Her mission in life is to empower people, especially women, via personal transparency and collaboration. She is a mother to an incredible little boy. Professional, she works as a case management coordinator at a social service agency in Philadelphia. And she is the founder of Purple House Project PA Incorporated, a nonprofit focused on supporting women impacted by intimate partner violence. In between, she writes articles about her experience living with visual impairment. So let's just watch a quick video on what Kristen has to say to us today.
Hi, my name is Christine Joy. I am the founder and executive director of Purple House Project PA. We're a local nonprofit organization with the mission to strengthen, empower, and transition women impacted by intimate partner violence through connection to essential resources that aid in the healing process. We believe in women's empowerment and providing services that help eliminate barriers to care. If you want to learn more about what we do, you can follow us on social media at Purple House Project PA.
Oh my goodness, this is so amazing, Kristen. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me to your space.
Absolutely. If you can, please tell me, how did you come up with the idea to fund Purple Project?
So Purple House Project, we just turned 7 in October, and I tell people it's crazy because I feel like it got deposited into me at the time in my life where I felt like I had the least amount to give. In 2016, I had a really toxic breakup with the father of my son's father, and it was a really bad time for me, and it was just a really difficult transition piece. But prior to that, I always knew that I wanted to support women, specifically women impacted by intimate partner violence, from things that have happened in my family, as well as like different clients that I've had over the years. And so fast forward, I decided to have a bowling party fundraiser to raise awareness because right now I work at a social service agency, and right now what we do is provide like services to clients, but our services kind of end at like here's a bus card and here's a food voucher, but I felt like there was like gaps in services that needed to be filled. And so Purple House Project really came out of like us wanting to fill the gaps that social services currently have. We tell people often that we're not an emergency service, but rather the service for folks who are trying to transition after an abusive relationship. And so Purple House Project came out of wanting to like triage a lot of biopsychosocial stressors that survivors often face, and like having it all under one roof. So Purple House, like purple is the color for domestic violence. House, the idea of eventually when we have a physical space, we'll have all the services under one roof, because we know that like going from one place to another to access services can create barriers. And so that's kind of like where I got the idea to do Purple House Project.
That is such a beautiful experience. And what you're doing, the work that you're doing is so amazing. Thank you so much for the work that you do for the community. So many people need these resources. When I was a young child, my mom used to be in a lot of domestic violence relationships. but we didn't always have the proper resources for her to learn how to not be in those situations. So let's talk about some of the services that you provide at Purple House Project, that people will want to reach out to you to get more information.
Yes. So right now, some of the services that we offer are case management services. I'm a licensed social worker, and I have master level intern. Myself and the interns provide case management services. Case management services ultimate goal is to help eliminate or reduce barriers to care. So what that means is that we join people along the process as they're navigating social service agencies. And we also like provide advocacy for folks as they're transitioning, advocacy around like housing resources, housing rights, because oftentimes when people leave an abusive relationship, sometimes they have to terminate their lease, or they need relocation support, and or they have trouble finding another place because they had to terminate their lease. And so we work with a bigger organization called Crime Survivors for Safety and Justice, which I think you would probably be really interested in their platform. It's all about survivors of all kinds of crimes, but they do a lot of advocacy work specifically with survivors, and helping them know their rights and creating bills to help advocate for those rights. So we do case management, we do advocacy work, and then tangibly, we offer personal care items to folks. One of the campaigns we have going on right now is called We're Supporting the Girls, which is a bra campaign, where every client that we serve, our goal is to, if not anything, just give them at least one brand new bra, as well as like menstrual products. So we give tangible items. At times, while supplies last, we give out diapers, wipes. When we get donations of clothes, we give those things out not only to the clients, but we also go to local community shelters, and give out items. We do programming at local community shelters, and one of our favorite programs to talk about is our community garden at a local women's shelter in North Philadelphia. And so at the garden, we had to put it on pause for a couple years, but we're actually bringing it back this summer. We're super excited about it. But at the garden, not only do like folks get the opportunity to learn about growing um, herbs and plants, but they also have the opportunity to do programming as well. So like a couple of years ago, we did like painting in the garden. We've done like movie nights and things like that. And so our goal at the Pause Project is essentially to provide like holistic services and meet and the clients where they are. So that's what we offer.
That is so beautiful. And it's so many people get turned away by different programs that they go to because they may not have enough funding, or a lot of people just look at it as a mundane job. They don't look at the actual human being. So you're adding that piece to it that allows people to feel that someone truly cares about them. And that's the most important time for them to feel cared about.
Absolutely. One of our favorite taglines, I have it on my shirt, is "I got you, sis." And
Yes.
I say that every time at the end of a call with a client. I was like, "I got you, sis." Like, you know what I mean? Like, we're not going to be able to end homelessness, but I can walk along that journey with you as we're navigating those services. Like, I can't guarantee you housing, but I can guarantee you that, like, while you're navigating it, you don't have to do it alone. And
Yeah.
so, definitely being there for people, because it's one of the most vulnerable times in someone's life.
Yeah, it definitely is. So let's talk about some signs, because I think a lot of times people just aren't aware that they are in abusive relationships, let alone domestic violence relationships. A lot of times people only think, well, this person didn't hit me physically. So how could I be in a domestic violence situation if I was never assaulted, or if I don't have any marks?
That's a good question. I tell people often that domestic violence is all about unequal distribution of power and control. And that can look like not just physical abuse, as you just illustrated, but also mental, financial, sexual, cultural, spiritual abuse. And at any point where there is an unequal distribution of power and control, and folks are using their power as a means to control someone else, that is a clear indicator of domestic violence. I tell folks often that domestic violence is not an anger management issue, because if it was an anger management issue, this person would struggle with, like everyone they interacted with, rather it's a power and control over someone else. Um, some red flags, people, I feel like there are a lot of really common terms right now. One being like gaslighting and crazy making. Crazy making refers to someone trying to make someone believe that what they see or experience didn't happen. So, for example, if someone like left their keys on the table and the perpetrator moved their keys, and the person was just like, I know I set my keys there. And the perpetrator is like, no, you didn't. And like whole time they did, that's like a form of like crazy making. And while it sounds like it's just one simple thing, it's a pattern, right? And so first it starts with the keys and say like, oh, you're crazy, you're always losing things. And then sometimes it gets like escalated to first it's the keys, and then it's finances, and then at times it could be like physical abuse as well. So I think those are like, for me, what I would say are some of like the warning signs, the unequal distribution of power and control.
Yes, I totally agree with you. And I will also add to that, a lot of times gaslighting, a lot of people don't understand what gaslighting is. Gaslighting is if someone says to you the sky's black, but you can visibly see the sky is not black. The sky may be blue, it may have some clouds, it may have some yellow because of the sun, but it's not black. But when someone gaslights you, they know what they're telling you is wrong. But that power and control, where they feel that they are right and they want you to believe they're right, they will continually say the same thing over and over again to make you believe that what they're telling you is true and that you're wrong.
Yeah.
That happens in not only uh, family dynamics or intimate relationships, but it can happen in corporate America. It can happen at the workplace. I know it happens all the time in the workplace. Um, so just pay attention to how people are treating you. If someone's treating you a certain way and you don't feel good after, that's a sign that your physical body is letting you know that you're not in the right space and you may not be treated accordingly the way you should be.
Yeah. I like what you said about listening to your physical body. I haven't read it yet, but it's a popular book, The Body for, and I think it's so true about like how listening to your body, like your body will always tell you. And sometimes we try to ignore our body, or like even our emotions or our hormones, like, oh, I'm just out of whack. And it's just like, no, you're not out of whack. Your body is telling you exactly how you're feeling in the moment with that person. And so I love that you said the importance of like listening to your body.
Yeah, listening to your, because our physical body, our nervous system actually sends different transmitters to our brain to let
Yeah.
us know that something is wrong. But if
Yes.
we're not listening to our physical body and our emotions, and we're believing what people are telling us, your physical body will never send you warning signs if you don't need them.
Yeah.
So I will also add to that, another thing to look out for when it comes to domestic violence is when someone is constantly calling you out of your name and
Yes.
it's not in a term of endearment. So if someone's telling you you're crazy, like Christine was saying, the crazy syndrome, or someone's telling you, I think you're ugly, or I think you're not beautiful, or I think you need to change your clothes, or I think you shouldn't wear this outfit, I think you should have your hair this way. There's so many different types of domestic violence and abuse that happens in relationships. And also, please be sure that you're checking not only the intimate romantic relationships, but you're also checking your friendships.
Mm-hmm.
You're also checking the family dynamic relationships that you choose to be around.
Yeah.
That has a huge part in how you view yourself a lot of the times. I know we can't talk specifically about any of your clients, but if you can, you give us some examples of some scenarios that some people have experienced and they didn't know they were in a domestic violence situation?
Yeah. I oftentimes the women I serve have left the abusive relationship, and so some of the things that people share are like isolated incidences, how like, oh, it happened this one time, so I didn't think it happened again. I didn't think it would happen again, or I thought it would only happen because they were upset or because they had a bad day. But then it started off with one bad day and then it continued to several bad days. Um, I think another incident that like one of the incidents that I think about the most is a client of mine who was in an abusive relationship, and like as a result she had to like move out of her residence because the perpetrator kind of refused to leave, and what
Mm,
that looked like when they needed to navigate the services. And it was really difficult because not only did they refuse to leave, but it was really difficult to serve a PFA, which is a protection from abuse, because the person, whenever like the people tried to serve documentation, the person wasn't around, and which is like a whole process. And oftentimes that client in particular needed that protection from abuse to like get certain services as well. And so that is the one I think about the most. And I think about like how difficult it was even after she left to like navigate certain services. Like she tried to go to local women's shelters, and all the women's shelters were full. She was like
mm,
on a wait list, and unfortunately she didn't have a good experience with the shelter staff. And I remember being present on the phone as we were like navigating the services, and like I'm just like, yo, like this is the most vulnerable time in someone's life. Like you asking them all these questions only to tell them that there's no available, and not giving them any, alternative. And so I remember calling several times with her. Luckily, she finally got placed in the shelter. Fast forward, she got into subsidized housing. It's a 1 year program. Our hope is that, like, after this year is up, that she'll be able to transition into something more permanent. But yeah, that's one of the situations. I think that it's important to note that for all of the situations, I tell everybody, the most dangerous time, oftentimes, for survivors is when they decide to leave. And because of that, it's important to make sure we are not encouraging survivors or telling them what to do, rather like providing resources and sharing information. Um, I think the overarching theme of most of my clients is their journey to not only like transitioning out, but like navigating services once they're out.
yeah, I agree. And so I just want to quickly say we have the National Domestic Violence Hotline. It's 800-799-7233. Please be sure to reach out for help if you need services, or if you know someone who may need these services, please reach out. The mental health hotline is 988. Please reach out or take down the number and pass it along. And the National Suicide Prevention Hotline is 988. Please, if you know someone who is at this state in their life and they need assistance, call to help them. Many times people feel they don't have someone that actually cares. So I just want to take a moment and say, if you know anyone who is in a situation that is not beneficial for them and it's abusive, be kind to that person. Do not tell that person they're lying. Do not tell that person you don't believe them. Do not tell that person the perpetrator is a good, upstanding, law abiding citizen, because all that's going to do is hurt the survivor.
Yeah. I like that you said those things. And also, a statistic that we often share with people is that it takes the average woman 7 times before they leave an abusive relationship. And that's for a variety of reasons. One of the biggest reasons is the lack of resources that are available. One of the tactics in domestic violence is isolation. And so, oftentimes, perpetrators will isolate people from their loved ones. And so, when people are ready to leave, they don't have anywhere to turn to, because not only have they probably been abused financially, so they probably don't have any money, but then also they've been in isolation, and so they don't have as much of a community to go back to. And so I often tell people to not only be gentle to the survivor, but also be gentle to yourself as you're witnessing and hearing. Vicarious trauma is a trauma that we experience hearing someone else's trauma. And
Yeah.
so that's kind of why we changed our mission statement too. When we first started off, we solely were like for survivors, but like we kind of changed our mission to people impacted by intimate partner violence. Because as you mentioned earlier in your introduction, you mentioned being a child who grew up in an abusive situation, and we know that like a lot of times services are solely just for the survivor, but like the abuse doesn't just impact the survivor, it impacts the children and impacts the family system, you know what I mean? And so we here at Purple House Project, we provide support to anybody impacted, whether you are a survivor directly or a loved one of a survivor who needs support with any kind of connection and resources.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I'm grateful that you have the Purple House Project, because it allows families to start the process of becoming whole again.
Yes.
And many times, like you said, the resources are not provided to the children who are in these survive, because the children are surviving these situations as well. But many people don't talk to the children and ask them questions and try to figure out how they can get help and help them learn to grow and evolve from those situations.
Yeah. We had it. We only did it one time, but a couple of years ago, we had a summer camp for children who were impacted by intimate partner violence, and we took them to a campground in New Jersey, and we provided like holistic healing from the outside in, and we like like gave them the children were from the inner city of Philly, and we gave them an opportunity to experience healing, and it was just such a great experience because children like they absorb so much, and it shows up and it manifests in so many different ways. Oftentimes, it looks like behavioral problems in school, or it looks like lack of empathy, but oftentimes children are just trying to survive just like their parents are trying to survive. So
Yeah, I agree. I agree. So I want to switch the topic just a bit.
mhm.
Um, so you talk about you being visually impaired. Let's just talk a little bit about your experience as someone who is visually impaired, and let's explain to our viewers what that means.
Okay. So I live with a disease called Stargardt's. The umbrella definition, the umbrella term is macular degeneration. And so basically, there are like blank spots in my retina that impact what I can see. What it impacts the most is like the distance in which I need to be in order to see things. So, like, let's say what most people can see at like 20 feet, I need to be like at 5 feet to see. Um, and how that like shows up in the work that I do is that I often have to use like I have to magnify my screen on my phone and on my computer, and I use like a special magnifying device to read paperwork at times, as well as I use my friends to read and complete paperwork. I was actually diagnosed and deemed legally blind when I was 11 years old,
Mm,
and I actually earlier today just had a presentation about the intersection of domestic violence and disability, because one of a woman that I'm super close to, her name is Stacy, she lost her vision due to domestic violence. And so
mm,
it's been our passion for the last couple of years to raise awareness about disability equity and domestic violence, because we have learned over the years that folks who live with disabilities are at a greater risk of experiencing intimate partner violence because of their vulnerability. Um,
mm,
so we've been doing work around like educating, doing advocacy work, um, living with a visual impairment. Like I said, I've been visually impaired my entire life. And it's been an adjustment. Most people don't know at first, second, or third glance that I am visually impaired. You won't know until you have to see me read something. But it's definitely been a journey for a really long time. I tried to like not share about my visual impairment, but over the last couple of years, I've actually connected with the National Federation of the Blind, and I've been accessing services. It's an interesting experience though, because I don't present as blind, and so most people don't know. But then when I go into the blind community, they feel like I'm super sighted, and I was like, I'm not that sighted,
mm.
but I do have more sight than what you do. And so I tell people I'm kind of like blind-ish, but but yeah, it's I have a 9-year-old son. I keep on wanting to say he's still 8. He just turned 9 last month, and I'm still transitioning. I'm not ready. But I've been super transparent with my son. at a really early age about my visual impairment and like the limitations of what I can and can't see. I write articles about living with a visual impairment, and so maybe I can share that with your community. I could drop a link about the articles I share.
Yes, absolutely. I would love that. And I can put the link below for people to check out your articles. One, I just want to say you are so amazing. Everything that you do, the work that you do, you being so transparent in regards to your visual impairment and helping others understand how it works and giving out information and knowledge to help other people learn and grow. You are truly a survivor, not by chance.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And it's important for me to share because I think that oftentimes people feel like, oh, how are you going to relate? You don't know X, Y, and Z. And so I like to tell people I grew up with the IEP, individual education plan. So talk about like working with clients who have children. I share really open, like, hey, I had an IEP growing up, what that looked like. So if your child needs an IEP, it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's another resource for you. This is what I've used. And sharing my story about my visual impairment, it's kind of interesting because like growing up in school, like especially with my master's, um, we were taught not to disclose as much,
Yeah.
and I feel like for me, transparency is super important because it's really difficult to be what you can't see. And so if we create this like us them dichotomy and like clients think like, oh, I'm beneath them, whoa, it's really difficult to like build rapport. And so I'm not saying I like go in like in a session and I'm telling the clients all my business, but like
Right.
when appropriate, I think it's important to share because I think like in this society where oftentimes folks only see the highlight reel, it's important to say like, and this is what it took, and like you're not alone, and I had a day one day two, you know what I mean? So I love being transparent. I'm like, ask me anything. I think that we grow from the powers of other people's stories, you know what I mean? So
Yes, I agree. And I appreciate you sharing your story with us today, you being transparent and providing information and resources for our viewers to reach out. If you can, please leave us with one um, tip today that someone can take away with them.
oh, that's such a good question. Give yourself grace. I think in a world where we're like constantly trying to be perfect and frustrated and all these things that because we didn't measure up to what we thought like we should be, I think it's important to like give yourself grace that you got out the bed this morning. Like, yeah, like one of my favorite quotes is like sloppy progress. Like it doesn't have to be perfect. You just need to get started. So I think that's what I would leave the and that's with everything. That's with if you're in an abusive relationship and you're ready to and you want to begin the process, you just need to get started, whatever that looks like, whatever getting started looks like for you.
Yes, I love that. Well, thank you so much for being here with us today. Thank you for sharing your journey and your story with us. If you all are listening, please go to purplehouseprojectpa.org. Do you have a donation area?
Yes, we do on our website. And then can I share about an upcoming event we got going?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, so we're a Purple House Project, so of course we're gonna do a color purple event. So
Yes.
March 30th, we are screening clips of the color purple. We're not going to show the whole film, but we're screening clips, and we have a couple licensed clinical social workers who are going to process with the people in the audience as well as share therapeutic techniques for healing. So that's March 30th. You can register for that online on our website, Purple House Project PA. Because this is a platform for survivors, just wanted to share that we're a part of an organization called Crime Survivors for Safety and Justice. And if anybody on this platform is a survivor of any crime, whether that be domestic violence, gun violence, community violence, it's an awesome platform. They do healing events monthly, and in September, they're actually taking a group of folks to Washington D.C. because it's the anniversary of the Violence Against Women's Act, and so
Mm,
they're taking a group of folks to Washington D.C. to advocate about different bills that affect survivors. So if you want to like stay connected with all the work that we're doing, I encourage you to go to our website and or follow us on social media. We're on Facebook and Instagram, Purple House Project PA.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And please, if you can, make a donation. A lot of different foundations are donation based or by grants, or a lot of it is their own money. So
Yeah.
you making a donation to help these different people in these situations will actually make a better, make our communities better, because a
Yes.
lot of us just need help.
Yes, bras are one of our big. We have a wish list on our website too. I think if it's not on our website, it's probably on our Instagram. But bras and menstrual products. If you don't want to give financially, bras and menstrual products are some of the greatest needs that we have right now.
Awesome. So be sure to go to purplehouseprojectpa.org. And we look forward to seeing more of what you're doing, Kristen. Thank you so much for sharing with us today. It has been such a pleasure.
Oh, thank you for inviting me onto the platform.
My pleasure. So, to each and every one of you that watched the show, I appreciate you all so much. I am so grateful for you. In 2 weeks, we will have the love poet here. And what we're going to talk about is the cycle of breaking the cycles of not being your authentic self,
Ooh.
and breaking the cycles of generational conditioning. So
Ooh.
many times we are conditioned based on the generations before us, and we're not able to be our authentic selves based on these conditions, these generational conditions. So we're going to talk about how you can break those cycles and how you can come the best version of yourself and being authentic. Thank you all so much for watching. I really appreciate you all. May you all have a good night.